In this lesson, we will understand what are arrays in C language. With that, we will also see how to declare, initialize, and work with arrays with examples. Let us start. Arrays in C are used to store multiple values of the same type in a single variable, allowing you to organize and manage data more effectively. It is a data structure to group elements. So in this lesson, we will learn how to work with arrays in C language. Let us understand the concept of arrays. Consider you have a class of 20 students and you want to arrange the marks of all the 20 students. So you can use any of the two methods. This will help us in knowing the importance of arrays. Beginning with the first method, in programming you can declare 20 different variables for each student's marks. Okay, like shown here, int marks 1, marks 2, marks 3 and goes on till marks 20. But this isn't looking like a proper solution, right? It would be more chaotic, and 20 variables in a code when we can do it in a better way is what we call an optimal solution in programming. So this was the first method. Now let us see a better solution, that is the second method. Just declare a single array variable and store the 20 different integer marks values. Okay, like shown here. So this will be a one-dimensional array. So the 20 different values of marks will get stored in contiguous memory locations. That means the elements of an array are placed in adjacent memory cells, which makes it easy to access each element using its index. Here we have mentioned the data type int, then the marks variable, and using the array subscript operator, we can declare an array. Within this, can you see 20? It is used to specify the number of elements the array can hold. So here we have declared an array of 20 integers. That means the marks of 20 students. As you can see here, the first element always begins with the 0th index. Index 0 is the first element, index 1 is the second element, and it goes on. So obviously the second method is better. Using array fixes the problem we saw in the first method. So method 2 is better. We saw two methods and definitely the second method is better. Because in this you don't need to declare different variables for all the 20 marks values. Above we have used the square brackets. Index 0 was for the first element and similarly it goes on. Since the first element was index 0, the last element will be 19. That means the 20th marks will be at index 19. So these terms will be valuable for you to understand the concept of arrays. Let us move further and now declare and initialize arrays. We have learned how to declare and initialize variables. You can relate the same concept. To declare arrays, you need to use the following syntax. First, write the data type like we mentioned int. Then the name of the array, we have mentioned marks. And within the square brackets, you need to mention the size of the array. Here, 3 in the square brackets would mean declaring an array with 3 elements. Now the variable array marks holds 3 elements. So this is how you can declare arrays. Now let us see how to initialize arrays. You can add the array values in a single line. Like we saw the previous example for int marks with 3 elements. To initialize it, you can add it in a single line as shown here. Here we have initialized the marks array with 3 values 90, 75, 88 under braces. Element 1 is at index 0, I told you before, and the last element is always size minus 1. Like for the marks of 20 students, the last element was at index 19th. That means size minus 1. Similarly here. So as I told, index 0 for first element, that means mark 0 is 90 here, and the last element is size minus 1, that means in this case we have 3 students, therefore marks 2 would be the value 88. That means the last index is size minus 1. The last element is located at size minus 1. So we saw how to initialize arrays. We will now see our first example to create arrays in C language. This will be a one dimensional array. Let's see. Here is our VS Code. We created Amit project. Okay, let us create a new file here. Right click, new file, demo26.c. Let us add the comments. I'll add the header file and then the main function. Now let us create a marks array with 3 elements. I already told you. We will take the same example we just saw. So here our array name is marks, and now we will add 3 elements under braces 90, 75 and 88, semicolon. Now let us also declare 2 variables, int I and j. We will display the elements. We will use for loop I is equal to 0. We already declared I, so I am not writing int here. Okay. We already discussed for loop in the previous lectures, so I'll now set the condition to test and I++ for increment. Print it. So instead of displaying them individually, we just use the loop. Let's say you are having 10 or 20 marks, then imagine the purpose of loops also and arrays to ease your work and to reduce the line of code. Marks. So here what I'll do, I'll mention %d here. That means format specifier for integers is equal to %d. So this is the best way to run a program related to arrays to understand it. When I'll run, you'll understand it more. Marks, and in square bracket mention I. Okay, when I will be 0, it is less than 3. It will print marks 0 is equal to the value of the marks, that means 90. Let us run it. First I'll return. We have added 2 format specifiers here. That means we are printing 2 values. Here we will print the I value. So mention comma I and then comma marks I. This will be the element, individual elements. That is, when the value of I will be 0, it will be marks 0. When it will increment to 1, it will be marks 1, and similarly it will print it. Save. Right click, run code. Now we printed. Okay. When the value of I was 0, marks 0 is equal to the following, marks 0, that means 90. When I increment it, now the value of I is 1. 1 is less than 3, it will go inside the loop and print marks 1 is equal to marks 1. That means 75. Similarly for the last one. In this way you can create an initialize arrays. Now let's say you want to individually print them. Printf. Okay. Marks of student 2. Let's say you want to print the marks of student 2. Okay, is equal to, I'll mention %d again, and here marks 1. Why I added 1? Because index 0 is your first element, index 1 is your second element. Here I mentioned index 1 for the second student, that means 75. Or I can mention marks of the second student. Similarly, I can copy this and paste it here to print the marks of the last student, that is 2. It's always -1. Now I should also show you the first one so that there is no confusion. I'm just showing it to explain the concept of the first student. Okay, I hope you can guess it now. It's index 0. So it will now individually print them. File, save, right click, run code. Now first we printed this. Okay, here then we printed them individually. Here it is, student 190, student 190, student 275, student 388, and here it is. So in this way you also learned how to access array elements in C language. So this was one dimensional arrays in C language. Okay. Now let us see what are two-dimensional arrays in C language. We just saw what is a one-dimensional array and we also ran a program. Now two-dimensional arrays are used to represent a matrix or a table of data where each element is accessed using rows and columns. Consider them as arrays of arrays. First you need to write the data type, let's say int, then the name of the array similar to one-dimensional array. But after that you need to use two square brackets, one for the number of rows and the second one for the number of columns. For example, your array name is marks. For two-dimensional arrays, you need to mention two square brackets, like here we have shown 3 rows and 3 columns for marks array. Okay. Now when you will represent two-dimensional arrays, let's say here for 3 rows and 3 columns, it will be accessible like this. For first row and first column, your marks is at the 0th index, that is marks 0, 0. Then for first row and second column, since this is the first row, its index would be 0, so marks 0. And since the column is second, its index would be 1. Therefore marks 0, 1 for first row and second column. Similarly for the entire matrix. Consider two-dimensional arrays as a matrix like arrays of arrays. That's why we have two square brackets in it. Now let us see an example to create a two-dimensional array in C language. We will create an array that will be having 3 rows and 4 columns. We will also initialize that array and also print it using for loops. After that we will also access and modify any of the elements in it so that you can understand how to work with two-dimensional arrays. Let us start. So here is our VS Code. Let us create a new file. Right click, new file, demo 27.c. Let us add the comment. Two-dimensional arrays in C. Now I'll add the header file and the main function. Let us create an integer array, a two-dimensional array. So we can name it marks, or let's say I'll name it matrix, because a 2D array is a matrix only, so it would be easier for us to understand. I'll take 3 rows and 4 columns. The first square bracket will have the number of rows and the second will have the number of columns. Okay, now let us initialize it. So this is for the first row, comma, this is for the second row, and this is for the third row. So within this we will add our elements, and this is the syntax, add a semicolon here. Okay, now add your elements. So this is your first row. We have 3 rows, right, and 4 columns. So add the values for 4 columns. Let's say I'll add some elements. So 1, 2, 3, 4 here. I'll add 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11, 12. Now let us print. I'll use a for loop. I is less than 3. So I have added I is less than 3 because the number of rows were 3. So this is how we print a matrix in C language. Now what I'll do, I'll add a nested for loop. That is a loop statement inside another loop statement. Loop inside loops. Now int j, I'll take another variable. I hope you can guess it correctly now. It will be less than the number of columns. That is 4. So this is how we will print a matrix. J++. Okay. Within this, use printf and print your matrix. Let's say I'll print it like this, %d, %d. I hope you remember this format specifier is equal to %d. This will be the value. This is the row, this is the column, and this is the value. So after the comma, what you will write? I, j, I for row, j for column. I missed this. I for rows, j for columns, and the last one would be the array value. That means matrix ij, semicolon. That's it. I'll first print this and later on access it. Let's say I'll print this. Go to file, save, right click, run code. Here it printed it, but we missed the /n. Okay, I have added this. It should be like this. Now it's fine. File, save, right click, run code. No, this is incorrect. We did a flaw. This, we forgot to initialize this. This looks fine. Now from I to j, right click, run code. Here it is. We printed all the values. Okay. If you added marks of students, it would be student 1 marks, student 2, student 3, student 12. So I also explained you the structure in the PPT. It was like this only. The first element marks 0, 0, 0 row, 0 column. 0 row first column was second. Let me compare it. It would be easier for you to understand. 0 row, 0 column was 1. 0 row first column was 2. 0 row in the sense first row. So this is an index like 0th index for the first element. Similarly, you can compare them with this. The first 4 was for this row. The next was for this. You can compare, and the last 4 was for the last row. In this way, you can print a two-dimensional array. Now let us access. I'll access a specific value, original matrix 2, 3, second row, third column. Okay, is equal to %d and a /n. So here what you will mention, obviously which value you want for matrix 2, 3. Okay. After that, what we will do, we will just update it. Matrix 2, 3 was, let's say, 50, and then we will print it again. Copy, paste. Okay. Updated 2, 3. Okay. This looks fine. File, save, right click, run code. Now it printed first, then it printed a specific value, which was matrix 2, 3. Matrix 2, 3 was 12. That means third row, fourth column. That means third row, fourth column, that is this. We updated it with 50. Here. Here, okay, and we printed it. So in this way, you can create a two-dimensional array and also update it. Access the elements and also update it. So guys, we worked around the two-dimensional arrays. In this lesson we saw what are arrays in C language. We also saw what are one-dimensional and two-dimensional arrays with examples. Thank you for watching the video.